Yeah, that's good. Is that in addition to the other, or is that the whole thing?
That's just it.
Horse is loaded for bears.
You know what?
Ross, that's for less.
Okay, the party construction.
Sure.
How are you? listed first. Okay.
Did you click play yet? Did you click record yet?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to County Commission. Today is Monday, the 9th of August, 2021. And I'm glad to see such a bright-eyed and bushy crowd. Bushy-tailed crowd here this morning. Let's start out this morning with our Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. I've asked Bree Sherritt from our Victims Advocate office if she would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Karsten Reed, our county assessor, if he would offer a prayer for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. All right. We've got minutes from our July 12th, 2021 meeting. Is there any discussion on the minutes this morning?
I just had one little change.
Okay.
John fixed that. Though.
Okay.
It was just when we were talking about the fairgrounds, just some language, just a little bit of language change. It made it sound like the CO building was our bleacher supplier, and I just had him reword that a little bit. It looks good.
Great. All right. No further discussions. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
To approve the minutes. What day was that, Mike?
The 12th of July.
July 12th, 2021.
Well,
Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Come on, fingers, wake up. All right, let's move on to our approval of claims for payment from July 26, 2021 to August 8th of 2021.
I'll move for approval of claims for payments from July 26, 2021 to August 8th, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving ahead to our department reports this morning. Let's first, excuse me, have our assessor come up and enlighten us what's going on in his department.
Good morning. So,
Morning.
is there a clicker, John, or do you just click forward?
I'll just do it.
So I'm just going to kind of review. I don't want to, take an hour of your time, so I'll be as brief as possible. Sure. So I'll be as brief as possible, but just to go through these, kind of what's going on in our office. I'm discussing obviously these points: responsibility standards, staffing report card, and conclusions. So we can just move forward, John. So what makes a successful office? Two important components: knowledgeable staff and technology. Our staff is, I think the most experienced person there is Exilda. She's been there over 10 years. Outside of that, I think we've got I think that the most experienced person after that is Teresa, who has 7 years, and then I think it's pretty much everybody has been there less than 3 years, 3 years or less. So we're a little bit of a young appraisal assessor office, and so with that we have quite a bit of training that we need to do. And training is the most expensive part of running that office outside of salaries and wages. The statistic that the state kind of always throws out is that to train an assessor to get them licensed, the cost is around $60,000, and we have a number of trainees. Thanks, John. We have a number of trainees, and so we're working on. We do have a very knowledgeable staff. We're working on, increasing our training. That comes at a little bit of a cost to the county, and will continue to be a cost to the county for the next couple of years because it's a multi-year process to become an assessor. That's done through licensing. There's we are changing our CAMA system, which is our computer-assisted mass appraisal. Right now, we use a software that we pay for. We also pay for a software through monthly. We pay for the state the state's been developing a system called Puma, and they're finally implementing that in our county, and so we'll no longer have to pay for a second software and the software to the state. So I'm not sure that comes. I think that comes out of IT's budget, but it'll be a little bit of a savings to our county by switching over to a Puma system. So that'll take place in the next several months. We just started our integration with that software system, and so I expect that to be in the next 3 months that we'll convert over, and so we'll no longer have that secondary expense. So I'm gonna kind of skip ahead. There's quite a few slides here, and I don't want to bore everybody to death. But what allows the staff to be proactive and not reactive to real estate changes are being on top of these things, supply and demand, interest rates. But some of the things that we have to do outside of being proactive and not reactive are we have to complete the state mandated 5-year reappraisal in a timely manner. We have to adjust to changing new permit loads from year to year. And just to give you an idea, last year there was a total approximately of 1,500 permits. So we had right around 800 permits in Cedar City, 190 in Enoch, and then around 500 in the county. And the 2021 building permits year to date are 505 in Cedar. Enoch has 147, and then the county has 623. I mean, we are at this point almost what we were for the entire year last year. So that statistic isn't up there.
So it's kind of scrolling through there. Are you doing that?
I'm not doing that.
Okay. You were talking and it was
just going to
It
town.
wasn't matching up with the slides.
Oh, that's okay.
sorry.
Slides.
I'm not sure what's going on.
I'll just go back. But yeah, so there's a big demand on our office. When you just look at the building permits alone, I mean, we are at the same place we were last year today. And that's a tremendous amount of work that we're trying to stay on top of. And you'll see in the next few slides, the resources that we have to try to stay on top of that are limited. It's a manpower-oriented job. Technology is implemented, but it's mostly boots on the ground work. And so it's a huge effort to try to, with our office size, to try to stay on top of it. I'll just let
There it goes
Tell me
again.
when to stop.
just go. You can go back a little bit. Are you doing that, John? Oh. Just go back to the very beginning, and I'll just kind of click ahead.
Okay, I'm just not sure I trust the clicker at this point. Not the clicker, the person who's clicking it, but
It
the
might be me.
device.
So our requirement
Kind of just going on its
is
own
kinda
there.
just doing whatever it's.
Did you put a timer on when you built it?
I don't think I put a timer on it.
Awesome.
Of course, our job is to make sure the values are at fair market. And so that's the idea, is that the county's dealt with equitably, everybody's dealt with in a fair manner. And so fair market value, I'll just give you that definition real quick. It's the amount which property would change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller, neither being under any compulsion to buy or sell, and both having reasonable knowledge of the facts. So our responsibilities are real property discovery. We have to discover property in the county that's improved, or that's and value that property. That includes vacant land, improved residential property, secondary residential, improved commercial. We have to hear appeals, Board of Equalization, state appeals, and then court. So how many properties do we actually value? It's the total count right now is 51,733 parcels. If you compare that to percentages with statewide, you'll kind of see that we are a much different county than the overall state total. A lot of our property is just vacant, FAA land, non-agricultural land. And then just about half is primary residential and agriculture, secondary residential, commercial. So the benefit to our county is, if you go to the next slide, John, is that I've kind of categorized it by time consuming and what's difficult. So the benefit is that, non-primary is not as time consuming. That takes up roughly half of what we have to do, and it's not as difficult to do. So we're able to sort of stay on top of these 51,000 parcels because a big percentage and a big chunk of it is the least difficult type of property. So we'll just kind of continue on. And just for comparison's sake, I've kind of added a couple of the other counties to give you an idea of their percentages of property. You'll just scroll through those, John. So you can see that these are counties in our same tier, roughly the same size, similar parcel count, slightly elevated population. But you can see that, for example, Box Elder, Summit County, and Cache County. Cache has significantly more people, but the same number of parcels. If you'll just continue on with the next slide. We have a higher percentage of secondary residential as a total parcel count, a higher population growth than all of our peers. Keep going, John. And then these numbers were taken off of a Excel spreadsheet from 2017. So actually our parcel per appraisal count is much higher. And you can see that in that parcel per appraiser, that means that the workload that these appraisers are encumbering is significant. If you look at most of the counties, it's really small counties. So San Juan, there's only one assessor in San Juan and Juab, and so they're obviously managing all the parcels in that county. But in bigger counties, for example, Washington, Utah, you'll see that the parcel count is much lower. But in our county, we're among the highest, especially when if this was updated to our correct parcel count, we'd be the, I think, second or third highest parcel count per appraiser, which means that our assessors are really well, first of all, efficient because we're getting the work done, but second of all, there's a lot of work to do. I mean, when you look at it per county, we're an efficient county doing a good job, and I think that slide kind of demonstrates that. So the next slide is kind of, I think, probably one of the most important ones, and it sort of illustrates where we are. The
Sorry,
Oh,
keep
that's okay.
jumping ahead.
So the number of appraisers is in blue, and the number of appraisers for the other counties was taken from an Excel spreadsheet from 2017. So it's actually, so Summit County is actually at 11. So that blue line is up past the red line. Cache County is up at 15. So also that blue line is above the red line. And Box Elder is at 7 or 8. And so the middle line is the IAAO recommendation for parcels per appraiser. What that is IAAO is the governing body of assessing it's sort of the national governing body for our office, the International Association of Assessing and Collecting. So they recommend a county have a certain number of appraisers per parcel. You can see where they're recommending where we should be, and where we're at is in blue, and where the state recommends we should be is in green. In most cases, the counties that are similar to us are either at the state's recommended number or above it. This doesn't include in any of these counties trainees, but you can see that we're well below it. We could be considered understaffed by the IAAO and the state. But right now, our office is comfortable with our workload. Every single person in our office is a diligent and hard worker. And I think this slide really demonstrates that we are running a very efficient office where, the citizens of Iron County really are getting what they pay for when it comes to our office, and I think that's demonstrated at the very least by this slide. When you look at the work per appraiser that has to be done, the number of appraisers compared to other counties, I think it goes across the board in the courthouse, that the people in this courthouse work really hard, and they consider these tax dollars sacred that are paying them. And I think this is really representative of our local government, where you can see that these other governments are, I don't want to make accusations that they're inefficiently managed or anything like that, but that our county is. And I think it's a testament to this courthouse and the people that work here that they really treat their jobs, in a dignified way. They work really, really hard. And so I wanted to just point that out. So personal property is, we've had some issues with our software, and those have been ongoing issues. The state is working on a system with this new Puma software that will hopefully sort of alleviate a lot of our personal property challenges that we've had with software and just accuracy. And so, but the job itself is sort of the least glamorous. Teresa has a really, really hard job. A lot of people complain about personal property. Nobody loves it. I mean, including, pretty much everybody that I know. I mean, if I get a complaint, it's personal property. They don't like it. They don't like receiving. They don't want to pay it. The unfortunate thing is that it's responsible for about 30% of our revenue. So it's a huge benefit to the county. It just it just is a really hard, it's a really hard responsibility to manage, and mostly because it's just really disliked by business owners. The challenge is that eliminating, personal property tax would just then burden property owners, because the tax is the need is still there. The tax would just shift to personal property owners. The states, different legislators are proposing different things, but right now we're still dealing with the responsibility we have to perform, and Teresa does a really good job, and it's a really hard job, and I just wanted to point that out. So Braden is over Greenbelt. Braden, and we obviously are a county in a little bit of transition. A lot of farms are being sold for development, but there are still a number of people that are interested in agriculture, actively trying to produce on their properties. It's an enormous job in our county to manage that, and Braden does a good job. But that's sort of some of the responsibilities that are outlined and things that he has to do. So the way that they determine how well we're doing is called the sales ratio study. It's the way that we evaluate our performance, and it's done annually, and it's administered essentially by the state of Utah. So the sales ratio study is, if you'll go to the next. So it's you'll know, I think most people have received a notice in the mail after they bought or sold a property that is to verify the transfer. Those surveys, they're called surveys. They go out to the public, and some people actually fill them out. They get sent back, and then that's how we sort of, that's one of the ways that we use to determine value, because those are reported to us. Utah, of course, is a non-disclosure state, and so there's no disclosure requirement in Utah. So that's one of the ways we gather information, is through those surveys. The other ways are through the multiple listing services that we're members of, and that's essentially the data that we use to assess property in the county. Those are a bunch of different multiple listing services that provide data to assessor's office throughout the state. There's quite a few more than that, but it's gathering a lot of data. The job is a lot of data collection, being out in the field, measuring 1,500 homes a year. I mean, it's a massive gathering of data that's compiled into this huge study at the end of the year, and so that's sort of the essence of it. Anyways, that sales ratio study is the standard that we're judged by, and if you'll just kind of move through those slides. Sorry, John, I would use this, but it'll just.
I actually unplugged it. It kept scrolling forward. So.
Okay. So this is not functional.
Has total control of you.
So.
I don't. It's on its own. It kind of keeps wanting to go forward.
So basically, we have to be within 10% of fair market value. 90 to 110% of fair market value is what we need to be in compliance with the state. That's a measure of central tendency that we use is the mean and the median of that sales ratio study. And so I'm just going to kind of skip through all the boring details. And kind of go to, I don't want to give you guys a statistics class here, because that'd be super, super boring, but anybody who's interested is welcome to come down to the office, and we can go through the sales ratio study. But I'll just skip forward to the report card, and the report card is annual assessment sales ratio study. We're in compliance. I mean, that's a huge deal. And that was basically all done by our office. That's Trevor and Braden and Teresa and Brian and Exilda working their guts out to make sure that we got everything done and that we were in compliance. It was a huge effort. It's a huge effort every year. And we did it with fewer people than we normally would have because we lost a number of staff. And so it's a huge credit to our office who work really, really hard to make sure that we're in compliance and that we're staying on top of these parcels. One of the last things I want to just talk about is the supply of appraisers. If you'll go to that last slide, it's been nearly impossible to replace assessors in the state of Utah. The disparity right now between the private and the public sector is so large, and very few. It's so hard to become an appraiser, to get an appraisal license, that counties are really struggling to hire. That was the entire topic of our annual assessor meeting. Just that there is more and more pressure on counties because the counties are growing, to add assessors, but there's no supply to add from, and so it's going to be an ongoing issue with our county as time goes forward, that we will have a real struggle with supplying the office with employees that are qualified. Basically, we're going to have to train anybody anybody who comes into the office is going to have to be trained. It's not going to be a qualified individual. As much as you want qualified people coming into the office because they don't cost the county money, they just aren't applying for these jobs, and primarily because they can make, which is good, a lot more money in the fee world. So I expect that the one thing that might change, even though we've saved on salaries and benefits by cutting our office size, that we'll probably have to increase our budget with regards to training. I think that's the one big change, but I'm proud to say that we're in compliance. I think it's commendable that each person in our county building, and that goes, that's the entire county that is involved in the process of being in compliance, our office being in compliance. I think it's a credit to everybody that works here. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Happy to answer them.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks, Karsten.
Chad, come on down. A report from our county attorney.
I'm really gonna have to pick up my reporting game. Everybody's got slideshows. They usually come up here. But I just have a few items I wanted to update you all on. The budget looks good so far. Everything looks like it's gonna be under budget, which is historically what we've done. We don't want to try and make unnecessary purchases with the line items we have. If we need something, we get it, but we usually give money back to the county at the end of the year. Of course, we're down now with Mike out, so we've had a series of interviews. We had a couple of really good applicants. One experienced prosecutor from Utah County. However, she didn't want to take the pay. She made more than the elected county attorney here. So we weren't going to get her. But we had two great applicants who were BYU. They were taking the bar this year. Really impressive academic credentials. We were going to offer them a job. However, they took jobs with a judge, which is one of my concerns, which is if you've done well enough in law school, you can get a job with a judge. So we're going to open that position up and try to get some more interviews and hopefully find success on the next round. 2 weeks ago, at the end of July, we had the first trial after the pandemic. We had a first jury trial in person. That's the first one in Iron County, which was good to see, so we can start working on that backload. Trajan Evans was the lead prosecutor. Sam assisted him. They did a great job, got the conviction and on a drug case. Stemmed out of heroin, actually, out of here. That was a felony case. We've had some interesting cases that continue to crop up. One of the things that we were noticing is the remodel at Walmart has brought in some interesting people. We've had several felony cases come out of the Motel 6. This Walmart has brought in outside people to do this remodel, and they're largely staying at the Motel 6. Last week at about 3:30 in the morning, I got a call that there was a shooting, and we ended up having an attempted murder in the parking lot of the Motel 6. So something has to change there with their background checks, because we've had 2 aggravated assaults, 1 domestic violence, and now attempted murder with the employees that are remodeling the Walmart.
Wow.
Luckily, they're not from here. They're all kind of transient, but you hate to see people come into our community and commit such violent crimes like that. But 822 cases that we've processed so far this year. I ran that this morning before I came up here. That includes our justice court caseload as well as district court. That does not include our juvenile court, which tends to be a smaller piece of the pie. We don't want to process too many juveniles. At least that's the kind of the goal of the juvenile court process. You don't want to have these kids come in there, so we're not doing a large amount in our juvenile court. Give you an update on the opioid litigation. I continue to get updates from the firm that represents Iron County, Phipps, Ortiz, and Toulouse. And I think that's like the 5th time that this law firm has changed names. And these big law firms, they change names quite a bit. They report that negotiation settlements continue to be ongoing. There's not real progress yet. However, they're hopeful that as trial dates get set, that people get serious about negotiating and resolving the cases. So I'll keep the commission apprised on any updates there. But that's really kind of been stagnant for the last couple of years. Nothing too noteworthy there. Trying to think what else I wanted to touch on. I'm going to speak to you guys later, the notice for 10 o'clock, but that is an issue that Carson has raised with recruitment and retention in the counties, specifically with attorneys. One of the things that came up was even with these new law school graduates, and this is true with even when I was applying for jobs, that Iron County was significantly lower for a starting attorney. And so that's something that we can discuss if you guys have questions, and I'll do that at 10 o'clock. But to recruit good attorneys and to retain good attorneys, we want to have a core group of advocates for the county that can live here and work here and see a future here. It makes it difficult for an office to function when there's a lot of turnover. And I think that if we make some modest adjustments, we can give people a vision. Say, if I work here, I can make a living and stay here. We want attorneys to specialize in areas, develop an expertise in areas, and that's a goal of mine. I think that it's important that we move towards that. I know that you guys get those requests often, but I think that this is a worthy request that you guys we can discuss at 10 o'clock as well. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any now in that regard, or anything else that the county attorney's office is involved in.
No, none for me.
Okay. Well, appreciate you. I know all of you were involved in the Enoch flooding and Cedar flooding. Thank you for that. With the heavy equipment, Mike was out there passing out cleaning kits and doing his thing in Maryland as well. Thank you so much for your guys' examples and efforts with those who were affected. That's all I have. Are we breaking records of how quick that report is?
That was pretty good.
That was good.
Good. Stephanie from our Iron County Children's Justice Center.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I've handed out just kind of our interviews, our stats for Iron, Beaver, Cane, and Garfield County. So you have an opportunity to take a look at that. Interviews are actual children who came into the Children's Justice Center to receive services, interviewing as well as victim advocacy services. Medical exams are down below. Keep in mind that we can't force anyone to get a medical exam. It's offered to them. And our Safe and Healthy Families with Primary Children's actually does that for us. And so that gives you an idea of where we're at with our medical exams for the year. And then, of course, our mental health counseling that we're providing to victims and their families below in Iron and Kane County. We don't have a contracted therapist for Beaver and Garfield because we have the funding for it. We're having a hard time, sort of like what Karsten was saying, we're having a really difficult time in finding a therapist that's willing, because we're only allowed to pay them what the federal rate is, which is $80 an hour. And as a private therapist, they can receive $120 an hour. And so it's been very difficult trying to find someone to kind of fill that, even though we have funding for it. But we're just going to continue on. And I'm actually working with the Cambria Foundation, which was the $1 million grant that the Children's Justice Centers of the state of Utah received in doing telemental health. My vision that I'm really working with them is I would really like for the chapter, which is the Attorney General's office, to actually hire a mental health counselor that they can do through telemental health that could serve not just individual CJCs, but all CJCs is kind of what my vision is. I'm working on that with them because it's really difficult. I mean, all of our mental health therapists are pretty tapped out here in our community. And so I tell any kids that are graduating high school and heading into college and they're kind of curious what field they should go into, I'm always like, mental health. There's a huge need for it, and unfortunately we're in a different place where on a federal level, state level, and local level, people are really seeing the value of mental health and how important that is. And so that's kind of where we're at with that, and hoping within the next couple months we are able to get somebody contracted so that we can go ahead and cover Beaver and Garfield County, our victims there. We offer services to them, and they have an opportunity to work with our mental health therapists or the local Southwest Behavioral Health, and many of them are accessing that. So any questions in regards to our interviews or exams or anything? No? Okay, so July 1 is our new fiscal year. So we're different. We run on a whole completely different budget year than the rest of the county, since we receive our funding from the state and from the federal government as well as private foundations. And we're super happy to report that our VOCA grant, which is a 2-year grant that takes care of a large portion of our salaries as well as all of our mental health contracted therapists, we received funding, which will be over the next 2 years, of $978,644. And so that's almost $1 million coming into our community from a federal source, which is actual fines that are paid. So it's not tax money, it's actual fines from offenders on a federal level. And so it's really nice that we're able to use that funding to help victims of crime. And so we're super excited that we received that funding here, and that started July 1 and will go until June of 2023. Does that sound right? Yeah, 2023, that'll be 2 years. In regards to our state funding, we did receive a little bit of an increase on that, and that helps take care of kind of our general program services, utilities. The majority of my salary comes from the state, where my victims advocates, it's kind of half and half. Half comes from the state, half comes from federal funding as well. So we did get a little bit of an increase in there since we picked up Garfield County to just help cover like any cost that we might have with Garfield County at all. So we're happy to report that. And then one of the other things that I recently had applied for was a grant through the Omaha Community Foundation, and it was for Iron, Beaver, Cane, and Garfield, and it's called, and I don't know if I ever say it's Vitanex, and I'm just going to give you just a quick demo on something that we are actually, that this grant is paying for. So over a 2-year period, it was $11,140 And so that covers us for 2 years. And what's really nice about this is just the incredible savings that we're going to have in regards to just not having to purchase DVDs. One case will produce a DVD to the prosecutor's office, law enforcement, child protective services. If the guardian ad litem's office is involved, they get a copy as well, getting those out to them. And so this is just, it's cloud storage of the victim's interviews. And so, John, can you just do just the, let's see, that is, it did not completely give you the link of where, there we go, the overview.
I'm Jolene, and I am a survivor of child sexual abuse. Saying those words will never get easier. You are putting the worst thing that ever happened to you out.
Protecting the evidence like you protect the kids is really acknowledging that this is a part of the child's humanity.
And when children share the worst, they deserve the best protection. Vitanix is more than cloud storage or software. We're security for the most sacred trust you've been given.
Vitanix was built from the ground up for child advocacy centers specifically to meet the needs of those child advocacy centers, and was informed by conversations not only with individual centers across the country, but also with partners from the Department of Justice, the FBI, the National Children's Alliance, and leading philanthropists. The kind of security that we use is the same kind of security that protects the Department of Defense. So when we talk about Vitanix, we talk about being in the same company as things that protect us from nuclear armament.
Unlike DVDs and videotapes that can be damaged, hard to play back, or easily lost, or consumer-grade online storage services that are not secure, Vitanix is so much more than just storage. With Vitanix, you can simply and securely share and manage access to interviews in real time online, create a digital chain of evidence, and ensure, in a way never possible before, that forensic interviews are protected.
It's personal for us. We know the stakes are high for these child testimonies.
Vitanix helps you accelerate justice and healing with instant access and simple coordination. If that's working with team members across the office or agencies from across the country. It's easy to use and easy to learn, with the ability to collaborate, share, and even add attachments.
With Vitanix, the benefit is we can easily share an interview with a defense attorney, with a prosecutor, and they can prepare for their cases, which really has the ability to continue that access to justice for children on those cases.
It is really state-of-the-art technology that children in this field and in our work deserve. They deserve the best.
We know it isn't about putting fancy bells and whistles on something, so it's the most high-tech. It's about making it work and making it work well for the users who need it to advance the cases on behalf of these children.
This kind of technology where you are trying to preserve critical information, there are no systems like this that really makes sure that this is treated like evidence and that that story is preserved and protected so that only the people that need to have access to it get access to it.
The value of protecting that moment, their voice, those memories, you can't put a price tag on that because something priceless was taken from them.
Vitanix is here to protect your work. Your calling to be there when children call out, because we protect the evidence like you protect the child.
Thank you, John. So we're super excited to bring this to our community. We've actually been using it now for a couple of weeks, and the feedback that we've been getting from our partnering agencies is they absolutely love it. Ran it by Chad's gone now, but ran it by Chad's. They are just really enjoying all of it. One of the other things that is a huge benefit to us is we actually are the only children's justice center in the state of Utah that still provides a transcript to our partnering agencies. That's something that Troy Little, who is now Judge Little, really saw a lot of value in it, especially being able to walk in during a jury trial and present a transcript and able to highlight all of the narrative that the child gave, as well as just where the detective just was asking very non-leading questions and letting that story come from the child. And so that's something that, as an MDT here in Iron County, that we have really just felt the value of continuing to do the transcript. However, that transcript is extremely time consuming. A 45-minute interview consumes about 8 hours of my staff's time typing that up because it's verbatim. And so it's very detailed. We want to make sure that they get it perfect. Mike's super familiar with transcripts. And what's nice about this is this will actually transcribe the interview. And so what's nice is it'll be transcribed. My staff can go in, they can go ahead and they'll still review it and make sure, because we've all got, different, our Southern Utah, talk. And so just to make sure that it's all, completely perfect. And one of the things that they're working on right now, I just received a call from Chad on Friday that they have, they're going forward in a trial with a Spanish speaking interview. And so we are having to pay $500. And that's just the last estimate that he had for someone to transcribe that interview from Spanish into English. Well, once Vitanex gets this done, that will do it for us. And so that will also be a huge savings for us as well. So we're super excited about this new program. Like I said, I've got a grant that will cover that for the next 2 years. And then one of the things that we're working on is seeing if there's a way for our chapter, which is the Attorney General's office, to be able to provide funding for us for all children's justice centers across the entire state of Utah, to have this as kind of like in a bulk, having access for it. So we're hoping we can continue with it. So, we have our golf tournament coming up. We've got our big, so we're getting ready. We've been hustling for that. Cyrus, who was with the Pastry Pub, is actually the one that puts that on for us. It'll be the 10th of September here at our golf course. Last I heard, there are no team spots available. It fills up super fast, so we've got that coming up next. So if you're around, we'd love to see you guys come out. It starts at 8 in the morning with breakfast, and we always do a ceremony, and then tee off is at 9 o'clock. So any questions at all?
Thank you, as usual.
All right, thank you.
Bree, come on down. This is Bree from our Victims Advocates Office.
Morning. So I like piggybacking off of Stephanie because she can explain VOCA for you guys. I won't re-go over that. Some of the statistics over the last year, like she said, our years are July to June. So that's what these stats are from. Over the past year, we've served 830 victims. A couple of the notable, crimes that are associated with that. We had 124 victims of adult physical assault, 46 victims of adult sexual assault, 91 child physical abuse cases, 165 child pornography or sexual abuse cases, 172 domestic violence cases, 53 stalking and harassment victims, and then 17 victims associated with homicide. So these are like family members or close friends or people who were closely impacted by that. So this last year was a little bit crazy and we had some weird cases, but we got through it. We did get our new grant approved. We were approved for just over $384,000 over the next 2 years. That's kind of split down the middle. VOCA did decrease a lot this coming grant cycle. Hopefully they'll have some one-time funding that we can take advantage of. So we did have to cut a lot of areas to make sure that our personnel was covered, and we didn't have to ask for a ton of money from the county to cover any of that. One thing that I'm going to be looking into is more training costs, or training grants. Wendy started, she's one of our advocates at Cedar PD in Enoch. She started about 8 months before COVID hit and everything got nixed on training, and Jaden started right at the beginning of COVID. So we've done a lot of in-house trainings and tried to get to whatever we can, but we're definitely not as high up in training as we should be. I'm trying to work with Canyon Creek and the CJC and different advocacy groups locally and within like outlying counties. I just talked to an advocate in Beaver County about trying to get like the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition to come down and do some trainings. Because if we can get people down here and get enough attendance, then it would be cheaper than going up north. VOCA limited our training to $1,000 a year per employee, which is the cost like to send one of my advocates to the CJC symposium. So it limits how much we can do. So we're hoping to bring more people in. So we're looking at new grants for that. So that might be coming. We submitted some goals. I decided to do some different goals because there are a couple of things that we want to improve as a program. So we're trying to improve officer relationships, because that's a big part of what we do, is like having the officers know that they can call us and know what we do and all that. So we're trying to do more ride-alongs. We also have a lot of new officers throughout the county. So just getting to know them, that's part of what we're doing, is more ride-alongs and just getting to know them. Our community partner relationships, we have different coalitions that we each are assigned to attend. So we're going to attend those and then try and work more with our community partners in making sure that we're helping them out, and then that they're also, collaborating with us. In June, we were able to attend a mass casualty training in Boston. Kind of one of those, we're going to use the only national training that we get. So we went to a mass casualty training. It was super eye-opening for us. And so we're hoping to work with all the different players involved and try and get more mass casualty, more of a mass casualty plan together, because it's one of those things that you don't want to have to use it, but if you don't have it, then, you're kind of in trouble. So that's all I have. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
This last week I responded on an unusually nasty case of a suicide. Jaden was there, and Jaden was there before I arrived. My role in that was as a representative of the medical examiner's office. Jaden was awesome. He was able to be there for the family who was present. Mom and Dad were present. And Jaden was actually able to get us a ton of information that we needed for the investigative side of it in a manner that's way better for the family than us, asking questions. He was able to, and he knew the information that we needed to get, and he was able to get that while providing that service for that family. I thought of that, and I knew that you were coming up for today, and I kind of mentally made that note to share that, because it really, in that particular scene, as it does in all of them, that really made a difference. So I think to us and to the family, to have that advocate there that's not a police officer.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I actually meant to. That was VOCA is limited to crimes and victims, right? So suicide is not a crime. So by VOCA standard, we can't respond to suicides, which is why Sheriff Carpenter was so gracious to get some funding for some hours for us to respond to non-crime related things. So Jaden was able, I want to say he worked like 7 or 8 hours that day just on that case. And then the next day went and was able to remove the couch from the home so that the family didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, things like that, it makes a huge difference. And it's nice for us to be able to be there and take that load off of officers, but also we see things through a different lens. So we're more focused on the family and how things are going to impact the family. And then officers don't have to worry about that while they're at the case investigating and doing stuff. And it's different talking to somebody who's in like plain clothes than talking to somebody who's got a badge and whatnot. But Thank you. Yeah, Jaden's awesome. I'd hire him anytime again. He's great.
Well, and really all of you guys. I mean, it doesn't matter who shows up from your office, whether it's you or Jaden or Wendy. And I mean, there's just, I don't know. I never show up to anything and think, oh crap, it's Bree today. It's not how it is. It's everybody's equally awesome.
Well, thank you.
With that service. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we
What did you
hurry?
do? Well,
run through really quick or,
run
or
through.
not? Or
I'm going to keep mine super short. We're kind of on a time crunch today with some other meetings. But if
Okay,
you've got
real
the highlights.
Okay. I just want my heart goes out to the victims of any of the flooding that we've sustained this last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We were also affected as ranchers, washed out a lot of our roads, a lot of our fences, gates, that type of thing. A lot worse than, you always have a few, but this was substantial. The same cell that washed out the railroad and made the derailing of the Union Pacific was the same that we sustained a lot of our problems too. So a couple of my nieces were in that Enoch area, and it broke my heart. I went out and we went out and helped him quite a bit, and some of the other people also, and lots of friends and family out there, and so it really made me I'm pretty sad about that. We was able to, on August 3rd, we was able to go to an Aspen Workshop and got to see a lot of really neat Aspen. Jake Benson was the one that invited us. He's from the ENI, and a lot of the Forest Service and all of them were there. We got to see the regeneration of the Bryan Head Fire, and it was really exciting. One of the big things with the Aspen is that it's drought, not drought, but fire. So it doesn't burn like the others. It's usually, and we got to see that as we looked over it. A lot of the pines burned, and the aspen did not. So that's one of the reasons why they want that regeneration. We had flooding down in Canaryville, and we as a county. We need to clean the ditches. That's part of our job, is the flood control, and I'd ask that people would be really conscious of that, and allow the county to come in to protect all the different neighbors, that we can do that cleaning of the ditches. That's really an important part. We was able to go to also on August 3rd. We got to go to a dinner with Chris Stewart. It's a program that they bring a Democrat in, Senator Case from Hawaii. A Democrat came in, and we got to visit with him, and it was really fun. We, here in Cedar, we don't associate with the Democrats sometimes as much as the Republicans, because there are more of us, more Republicans. But it was fun talking to him, and we had a couple of the Paiute tribe that came in and visited with us also, and that was really fun, and to learn their history and that. But that was all I had today.
Okay, I'll just echo real quick what Marilyn said with the flooding. It was humbling. Monday was I had a loader out there, and it was humbling to be throwing stuff in the bucket of the loader, soaked dolls, family pictures, books. It was heartbreaking, honestly, and it was amazing, the community spirit. It was heartwarming to see everybody provided food. We were out there working, people were bringing us food and different things. It was really good, and it just shows our community and how everybody can pull together and help when we have these times of heartache and stress. Just one other real quick report. I wanted to thank Reed Erickson for his efforts on the Newcastle Fire Station we've been working on. We got $200,000 from the CDBG fund. This Iron County is going to put in $100,000. The CIB, our application was before them this week. I ran up to an early morning meeting Thursday. They had proposed to give us, we'd asked for $400,000 from the CIB. and that's Community Impact Board. The board had recommended that they give us $82,000 as a grant with $300,000 as a loan at 2.5%. I reached out to 5 of the board members the day before, who were all commissioners, and pled our case. Anyway, long story short, the next day they ended up giving us $200,000 grant and $200,000 loan at 1%. So we're very pleased with that. So we're going to move forward. They'll do the final approval in October, and but I think we can move forward with some of the drawings with the architect and the RFP on putting that out to bid. So that's sorely needed out there, and it'll really help those folks out in that area. That's all I have.
I'm not going to say much about the flood. We were
Mike was there every single day.
with my
there.
Commission assignment with emergency management. I spent a lot of time talking flood and coordinating flood. And as soon as we thought, okay, we have a breath, then it hit Enoch, and that was 10 times worse. But hopefully by next commission meeting, we'll have kind of an after-action report that we'll present and publish so people can have an idea what that is. I want to echo, so Marilyn and I had the opportunity to meet with Representative West, Representative Stewart. They kind of tried to strategically place us at the table to have these conversations. I actually sat between Representative West and his wife, because she said, hey, I've been listening to him all day and I need a buffer. I don't want to, you sit by him. And I had a lovely conversation with her most of the night, and very little with him, but she said, I get it. I will make sure that he understands. But just the point I want to make, this is really quick. On Saturday, I spent quite a bit of time with Celeste Malloy, who's Congressman Stewart's legal counsel. She was here in town. We talked flooding and did some touring, things like that. The follow-up comment from that conversation from Representative West was, I had no idea about agriculture and wild horses, and with the way that Marilyn described the issue to me, he's like, I get it, and I'm in full support.
That was awesome.
But
because Chris Stewart has been an advocate for us in the West with the wild horses. It's a huge problem. So that was a big win for us then, because he's on the Appropriations Committee with Chris Stewart.
Yeah, he said the way that Commissioner Wood explained to me the issue, he's like, I get it. I understand, and yeah,
awesome.
There's a problem. So that,
That's good news.
Yeah, that Celeste told me that on Saturday. That was the feedback from Representative Stewart, that Marilyn did a great job. Won over a guy that really didn't have any idea what was going on, but now he understands. So
that's awesome.
Awesome. Good job. Let's just go. We're gonna not take a break unless we need to for some.
Let's go.
Let's go. Agenda item number 1: public hearing, discussion, and possible approval of proposed zone change in minor subdivision located near 3851 West Mid Valley Road, Cedar City. The legal description is contained in the agenda. We'll turn the time over to Reed Erickson.
I got off this morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
While John's bringing that up, I got off this morning without my thumb drive, so I had Chelsea email it over, and so we're doing it a little different, but luckily we have it.
Great.
And before I begin, I want to thank Commissioner Cousins. He mentioned the CIB thing. It was really he that saved us $120,000 in loan, basically, in grant by getting that
Absolutely.
as a grant rather than a loan amount from what staff had recommended. And so good job sweet talking them and making sure
Thank
that
you.
that
Thank you
Absolutely.
so
all.
that's did a yeoman job. on it.
Everybody needs to know that that's
really
who
how it
got that
happened.
done
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
Excellent.
Very good.
All it took was a box of donuts.
Whatever it takes.
This first item is, do you want to click that, John?
Yeah, should work.
Okay, thank you. This is a zone change and minor subdivision for the same parcel of property. And so I've got just a location here to show you that it's just right off of Mid Valley Road, on the south side of Mid Valley Road, across the street from the Cedar Valley Acres subdivision. If you zoom in here where the star is, you can see that there are some RA20 lots there, and it's just on the south side of Mid Valley Road. And as you see, it's adjacent on the north side to the R1. And so they wanted to split this property up, and in order to do that, the only zone that they would qualify for being contiguous is 1 acre zone, even though they're only creating 3 lots on a 20-acre parcel. So the zone change is for RA20 to R1 for the 20-acre piece. And then this is the subdivision proposal that would have a 10-acre lot on the left-hand side, and then it looks like 2 lots in the front, but there's a 2-acre lot and then an 8-acre lot. And so the other division there is just an easement that goes across, because for their water supply, they're drilling a well and running the water through those easements onto the other lots. There is a Water Conservancy District line on there that runs down Mid Valley Road, but it's a high pressure line, and it would cost a substantial amount for them to put a pressure reducing station on there. The Water Conservancy District would prefer not to have one there, and so they thought it would be good to drill the well. And so the Planning Commission recommended that we do a variation on the required water system. Even though there's a hydrant there, so they have fire flow, their culinary water would be supplied by a well. And they were good to do that, because drilling a well would have cost them less.
There's no homes on there now, right?
There are no homes on the property currently, right? They do have a building permit, and they are in construction of a home there.
They are.
Because they can got a permit for the 20-acre piece, and that'll be where the 10 acres is after the subdivision. So there is just this subdivision. You can see the well location right in the middle where the circle is with their protection zone, and the lot 3, which is the 2-acre lot on the front right corner, and then the other lot is more of a flag lot, but they have frontage off of the county road. They're dedicating the full width to have the 100-foot right-of-way on Mid Valley Road. So we're getting everything we want through the subdivision process for our road. They're making the improvements to the subdivision, and the zone change would be contiguous with the R1s across the street with it. Since it's less than 40 acres, we typically don't zone property unless it's contiguous to a property that is zoned that way. So that's the proposal and the explanation of what it is. I think we covered everything there that we need. It has all of the services available to it: power, water, gas, everything there. So it's an introduction to both. We can hold the public hearing for both the zone change and the minor subdivision, and then we can act on one at a time.
Okay. Chair declares the public hearing open for any comments from the public regarding this subdivision zone change. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and come up to the microphone if you would, please.
State your name.
My name is Michael Fletcher. Just a question: what would sewage be used?
Defer to Mr. Erickson.
They will be on septic. There is a sewer line that runs to the east of this property, but they weren't within the distance of 150 feet times the number of lots, which were 3 lots, to have to require them to tie on. And so they were able to do septics.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the chair will declare the public hearing closed. Turn the time back over to Mr. Erickson.
This is a review. We always look at zone change and feasibility. Typically, when we do a zone change, we don't often have a subdivision with it, but in this case, we've kind of gone through this with the subdivision addressing water, sewer. Typically, when we look at a zone change, we think, is it feasible to do the development that could occur in that zone? So our kind of checklist here, or evaluation considerations, have to do with all of the services that would come through that, and we've addressed those really because we have the subdivision already, and we've provided for all of those things. So we're in good shape for the zone change.
All right. Entertain a motion.
Okay. I will move to approve the zone change and minor subdivision located near 3851 West Mid-Valley Road, Cedar City, as described in the agenda, and that's moving from rural agriculture RA20 to residential 1 acre R1 minor subdivision.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The second item for the minor subdivision, this is the procedure and the review from our code for a minor subdivision. This has frontage on Mid-Valley Road. It's already improved road. They are doing the rest of the dedication or the easement to have a 100-foot right-of-way. All of the other things are being provided as we talked about prior to the public hearing. So there is, this is the checklist for the R1, provides all of the accommodations for services that are being required. And so we do have the variation on this subdivision that the Planning Commission recommended variation, no street lighting to maintain night sky out in that area, which typically R1 requires street lights, and then also a variation from the standard of the required sewer or water connection because it's not, because of the pressure line. Water Conservancy District recommended a well.
So do we need another motion to, to
approve the subdivision.
Subdivision plat.
Right.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the proposed minor subdivision located at 3851 West Mid-Valley Road, Cedar City. That is rural agriculture 20 to 1 acre.
Well, we already did the zone change.
Oh,
this is to create the three-lot subdivision, the minor subdivision.
Oh, and the so is that the two?
That's the second item that we're doing the motion on is for the subdivision approval.
It's the same, it's in number 1, but there's 2 motions.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was.
So for the 3 lots, move to change it from agriculture 20 to the 3 lots Sage Flat minor subdivision.
We already did that. We're just approving the minor lot subdivision.
Isn't that what I just said?
Well, you did a change.
3 lots?
Change. Yeah, we don't need the zone change now. We're not changing the zone. We just did that. So now we're just approving the 3-lot subdivision.
Okay.
It's
the 3-lot
confusing because we don't do
subdivision,
that very
approve the
often when we have
3-lot
2 in one.
subdivisions with all the findings and actions.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't make it as clear on the agenda. Just had 2 items there, but we need to make them more distinct.
Yeah,
My
that would help.
No worries.
Thanks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And that includes the variations for the streetlights and the water.
Okay.
Thank you. John got that in the motion, right, John?
Yes.
Number 2. This is another public hearing, discussion and possible approval of proposed zone change from agriculture 20 to light industrial located along Silver Hills Parkway, southwest of Iron Springs Road at approximately 5801 West, Cedar City, Utah, with the legal description stated in the agenda.
This is a property that you'll recall having done the road dedication subdivision on. The Silver Hills Road is the road that was created through the road dedication subdivision, which would kind of split this property. So now, as we look at this, this is the property outlined in yellow there that's situated just south of the Monte Vista subdivision, and the road dedication subdivision showed this plat prior with the subdivision, and this is an older map. The road actually comes right up at the corner. You recall the discussion that we wanted that road as far away from a possible intersection with 5300 and the Belt Route and Iron Springs Road. So, but this is the property that would be being requested to rezone from light industrial from agricultural 20 to light industrial. They want to provide some light industrial. We're adjacent to light industrial on the west or east side of this property, and they're interested in doing some larger lot breakup, and they'll come back in with a minor subdivision and split this up as they have interest in selling it and developing. But they've got 3 lots there now that they could develop, and as they are, and a couple of the smaller one in the bottom right corner is the one they're starting with. So it allows for the subdivision and development of light industrial properties in that area. The Planning Commission recommended approval for this. The services would be available at the time that development would occur or that it would be subdivided. We've done the feasibility review. There is no sewer available in the area, but they can do septic on larger lots, at least 5 acres with light industrial, or they can put in a central sewer system, which is what they're looking at for the properties that they want to develop further to the west. So they're going through engineering and review right now to determine appropriate septic versus sewer for that area. There is a Water Conservancy District line available right there. They also have a well, but water is available, and anticipate everything through the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District.
Reed, are we requiring as a county any detention basins when people develop land? Because in the city they do. I was thinking about the flooding issues out on Westview Drive and looking at that new church they built.
Right.
And there's no detention pond. The North Stake Center up where I live has one, but it's in the city. I wonder if we need to start looking at that in the county with these areas that are flooding.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked quite a bit since, the last review of some of these subdivisions where we have done retention basins on there. The county had, generally speaking, taken the philosophy that we wouldn't do retention. We would do detention.
Right. And that's what holds
it
and then lets it out
and
slowly.
it lets it release. And we've kind of are moving away from that idea, thinking that we would be better off with retention because it creates more capacity than what detention does. And detention sometimes doesn't do the job adequately because we don't have a place for it to go after it goes out. And because it's so flat in a lot of these areas, and you have to dig deep enough to get even the detention that you need, we're relying on pumps to pump it out because it doesn't flow naturally. So part of the challenge that we've come back to is as we're filling in, and part of the philosophy we've had in the past is there was plenty of room around rural subdivisions for water to be able to move, and that our review of the subdivision was really to address the historic flows that came onto the property that could be maintained through the property, and they would leave the property. So we said we will make sure that whatever water came onto the property from adjacent properties would still be able to move through the property and leave the property at the same location that it did previously, so that we're not creating any kind of hindrance. And then we would do detention on the new impermeable surfaces that we're creating by roads and rooftops. And so that's the kind of the plan in the past, because we always had, and Steve Platt was the engineer, as we would review these drainage issues, he would say, we have plenty of room, it's flat enough, there's areas for that to go. Now, as development now is filling in more of these areas, there's not somewhere for it to go on the next property, because now we're hitting the properties that are already developed, and there's not somewhere for it to spread out and just soak in. So we are addressing that as we review these applications and saying, how does drainage really occur here, and how can we retain the property? So this particular property, the property owner, and you'll recall when we did the Painted Desert subdivision and they had a retention, and it was supposedly previously a a subsequent phase of a Rancho Bonita subdivision that was going to compound onto the other properties that we had complications with because it sold out. Well, we've got a similar situation here where the developer, Mr. Nichols, owns this property, but also the properties from which this property will drain. It is really quite flat out there. The engineers have been evaluating the drainage in the area and the possibility of creating a sewer situation for developing a sewer system, and then how to handle the drainage. All kinds of drains from here to the southwest, which essentially would go to Quichapa in the end when it gets far enough that way. So they're working on that, and they're coming up with that. And at a zone change, we don't do retention and detention. But as soon as this property comes in for a subdivision where they would start breaking off lots, then that's where we would do either hold it on site or have a master plan that shows where it will drain. So thank you for bringing that up. That it's been a good awareness for us again to be thinking about that. We've been doing pretty good the last couple of subdivisions we've done, being aware of that, but then that was just re-emphasized with all the flooding that we recently had. So I think we're on the right track. We've spoken previously too, without taking too much time here, about in Marilyn's comment, keeping ditches clean. You know, we've had the philosophy that irrigation was, and ditches were for irrigation, but we all knew that they also handled high water when it was flood time, and it was the irrigation company's responsibilities to maintain those ditches. And as development occurs and they take a field out of production and no longer irrigate,
pivots have changed the ditches
and pivots
a
have
lot.
changed significantly, but we've maintained a lot of those irrigation ditches just because there may be a pivot, but it needs to go on down to someone else because they have a supplemental right and they need to maintain.
But the farmer's not going to clean them.
And that's been a problem of how they're maintained and how we use them and which ones we want to assign as flood drainages and take over the responsibility of that ditch rather than just having it an irrigation ditch. And so that's a big discussion that we're having right now, and we've been meeting with Cedar City engineers on that and how the water comes out of Cedar City and which irrigation ditches need to be maintained for drainage and how that drainage gets into major flood channels so that we can handle that water. So there's a lot of work to do in that regard, but these subdivisions help us address that specifically for each area, but we have to have a more of a master plan. And you'll recall in the budget this last year, we requested money to do a master drainage plan. It didn't get funded, but we'll come back this next budget and request that again. We did get the funding this year, and we appreciate that, to do the septic density analysis studies. That's where we put our money this year. But then hopefully in this next budget, we can address some of these flooding master plans so that as a subdivision comes in, we can say, well, it needs to get to here. We need to do this much improvement to have that happen so that we can address that. And that's what the master plan will help us do. So appreciate you bringing that up, Paul.
Great.
So after all that, the public hearing for this particular zone change.
So Chair will declare the public hearing open to discuss the proposed zone change from A20 to light industrial, the area described. Is there any question or comment? Seeing none, declare the public hearing closed. Turn the time back over to Mr. Erickson.
Here's the review list for considerations. We've evaluated this in terms of all of the services available. Has good transportation corridors, water, sewer availability, drainage, all of the issues that are relevant to that, and feel like that it does qualify to be able to accommodate those through the feasibility for a zone change. So it's recommended by the Planning Commission for approval.
Okay. All right, I will move to approve the zone change agricultural 20 to light industrial located along Silver Hills Parkway southwest of Iron Springs Road at approximately 5801 West, Cedar City, Utah. And as the description in the agenda reflects, and the applicant is Fiddler's Canyon LLC, Frank Nichols.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that zone change is approved. Moving on to number 3, public hearing, consideration and possible approval of ordinance 2021-8, adopting a partial vacated and amended subdivision plat of lots 47 and 50, Harmony Mountain Ranch, Phase 3, located, the legal description is in the agenda.
This item is the third that we've had in Harmony Mountain Ranch in the last year or 2 years, basically. And what they're doing is a lot of this area that you're familiar with, you see here, it's just across from Canaryville on the hill, on the east side of the, across the interstate from Canaryville, Harmony Mountain Ranch subdivision. It's mostly this area where the Star is, and then north of that is the Harmony Mountain. This happens to be in the very southeast corner of the subdivision. There are two 20-acre lots. These are all 20-acre lots. And the previous amendments that we have done in the subdivision was taking one of the lots in the subdivision and adding property that wasn't in the subdivision to the lot. And that's why we've amended it previously. In this case, they own two lots that are 20-acre lots. They want to simply combine them into a single lot so that they can erase the lot line, build across that they've got a setback close to one of the lot lines, and then they just want it one tax notice and not have anybody be able to break it up in the future. So they wanted to combine them into one lot. So this is a partial amendment to the subdivision plat, just putting those two parcels into a single parcel. Recommended by the Planning Commission. You can see the plat here. It's just lots 47 and 50 that would be combined into a single lot out of Phase 3 Harmony Mountain Ranch subdivision.
All right.
There is a public hearing only from the perspective that it's an ordinance that requires it we do an ordinance to do a plat amendment.
Gotcha. Okay, Chair declares the public hearing open on agenda item number 3. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, turn the time back over to Mr. Erickson.
I don't think there's anything else we need. It meets all of the criteria of the ordinance and just requires an action of the County Commission as the land use authority to amend a plat.
Okay. Call for a motion.
Okay. I'll move for approval of ordinance 2021-7.
-8.
Is it 8?
It's
I
8.
have 7 on mine.
Oh,
Did you change that?
there was a change.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. There was a mix-up on the ordinance numbers, and
Oh.
there was, we had to amend the agenda.
Okay. Okay,
Sorry.
I got it now. 2021-8, adopting a partial vacated and amended subdivision plat of lot 47 and 50, Harmony Mountain Ranches, section 29 and 32.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Signature on that? Sam and...
I was looking off my one that you sent me, not the next.
It was late.
Was it
I
late?
sent a new one.
I
but-
didn't-
but
I
yeah,
guess I
that's
didn't-
what I was
Is that
thinking.
the only thing? Is that the only?
That was
Okay.
that number.
We give you a different agenda, Marilyn.
I know you do.
Well, see, what we've got,
Yeah.
it's a hidden agenda.
Hidden agenda.
Jeff?
Don't mess me up.
Jeff? He won't answer.
Jeff.
He's not listening. Don't report any of that. We have hidden agendas. We give Marilyn a different agenda.
You have the plat, this is the plat for the Sage Flat. I don't have this amended plat Mylar back because they had to send it away for signatures and it didn't come back this morning. So as soon as I get it, I'll hunt you down and get a signature on it.
Great.
Thank you, Commission. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 4, public comments. Remind folks that there's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Don't repeat others' comments, only items that are not on the agenda, and nothing related to the Commission's role as an appeal board. And be nice in your comments. Just be nice. Yes, ma'am. Come on down.
Ask a question, right? Okay. Forgive me, I'm a little nervous. This is not my thing. I'm Becca Hoyt. I live out in Cedar Valley Acres, of all places. Actually, I live to the northeast of where they're putting in those houses. It's a very big house. So my concern is our roads out there are not maintained. We have lived out there, my family's lived out there for 30 years. I've lived in my home for 9 years. My husband and I use our own money, our own funds to maintain the roads. I have pictures to show that we use a railroad tie to make sure that I can get home every day, the 1.5 miles from the paved road of Mid-Valley to my home. So recently in the last year, we have a construction company, TNT Landscaping and Construction. They're running a dump truck, a trailer with a bobcat. It's almost a 1/2 mile away from their home on 6,000 to drive past my home 3-4 times a day. And they're speeding, they're causing a problem, and they're ruining the road that I pay to maintain. You guys don't come out, you don't plow out there, you won't touch it. Because of old school, it's a mess.
We have a lot of roads like
See,
that.
you're aware that
Yep.
it's a mess. What they built out there was a mess, and your responsibility is nada. So it's ours. So we do. Well, as of Friday, we had our 4th sheriff officer visit to tell my husband that he is harassing TNT Landscaping. And that if he doesn't stop harassing them, that they are going to arrest my husband for playing out in the road. My husband has RC cars. We live directly across from Three Peaks Recreational Area. So on Friday's incident, my husband was out in the road where it curves over, getting a rock out of his shoe, and this man speeding down my road had to slam on his brakes, called the cops to report that my husband was harassing him and keeping him from doing his business. So my question is, what is my recourse? What can I do to protect my family when this construction company has no reason to drive past my house? Like I said, it's an extra 1/2 mile out of his way to pavement. He could go down 6,000 west, but every time we try to stop him, ask him to slow down, anything, I've got a sheriff at my house trying to arrest my husband for harassment. So that's why I'm here today. What can I do?
I'm not sure. If
We have the
Sheriff Carpenter's in the back. Talk to him.
Okay, people are like, go on Facebook, but really, what good does that do? That's just a place for me to complain. And when my husband gets hit by this man or gets arrested for playing in the street, I'm just really frustrated. On that note, is there anything that Cedar Valley Acres can do to get those roads fixed and maintained so that I, a person that makes $35,000 a year, don't have to take that out of my pocket, plus pay taxes for schools that I don't use, roads that I barely use, and a road that I maintain myself?
There is a process.
There is a process. Yep.
I don't know how.
I sent an email to the county road commissioner and never heard anything back. And that was 3 weeks ago. So I'm sure it went in the round file.
I'm going to say I'm not very good at describing that. I would say do this. Reach out to John. Can I direct her to you to go through that process? Reach out to our clerk, John Whitaker. And
I'm over the roads, but I did not receive a email, or was it an email or
It would have been an email. It was like on the website. It says, hey, if you have a problem, submit here. So I said, hey, there's rough roads out here. And
gotten that. But anyway,
that was like 3 weeks ago. And
there is a process that you can go through. It's an assessment area that all of your neighbors can go in together, bring the road up to specs, and then we will take it over.
So to bring the road up to specs, that's up to us. And in the last 3 years, that place has grown exponentially.
There's a process that probably, that you all go in together. You don't do it yourself. I mean, they hire somebody to come in and do that. And then it's assessed, and you actually can just make payments on that to get your road up. So the reason why those lots out there are way cheaper than anywhere else in town is for that very reason.
Not anymore.
So
the lot values are now $47,000 per lot. Yeah, that's what I just recently sold some lots out there at that price. There's a lot next to me at that price. There are so many RVs out there that last summer you guys sent out trash bills for my neighborhoods. So, I mean, it's growing out there, and something
we
needs to be
understand that, and we know that it's an issue, that those subdivisions were built before we had the subdivision.
How it should be done. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
before,
It's a
and
grandfathered mess. That's a polite way of saying it.
It is kind of that.
It is.
Accurate way to.
But
sum it up.
but it'd be great if you would go in and talk to John and see
Visit
the
with
whole
us.
Are you in
process.
Cedar, or are you
Just
here?
downstairs.
Just downstairs.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And yeah, you have to have a critical mass of homes, and then there's an assessment that we do. We've done it recently in the Sunset subdivision. There is an expense involved.
There's definitely a need.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. They don't obey the speed limits. They came out and put signs out there, but the signs are actually in the middle of what would be a road, and
That won't help the speed limit.
this is true.
In fact, a paved road, sometimes they go a little faster. So that won't help that, but the dust and to have a nice road, yeah, it
I think
would.
for the immediate, I mean, come in and visit with us, but I think for the immediate, you'll want to visit with Sheriff Carpenter and at least
Yes,
make sure that
yes.
they're aware of your side of the story.
Okay.
What happens is if a developer comes in and grades a road out in the middle of nowhere, sells a bunch of lots and runs with the money,
Yeah.
and then the taxpayers have to improve that road the way it should have been in the first place. It's a tax shift to the other residents, and it's not fair to them. And
That's
that's why
true.
this process is in place.
And right, and my dad moved out there 30 years ago, knowing what it was, and it was 10 people, and now it is definitely not 10 people. So I'll definitely
Well,
be getting with
most
you.
most of the people understand that's what it was when they moved there.
Yeah.
You know, that the roads were the way that they were. And
My favorite is water and power. Where do I get that? Well, that's on you, buddy. Have fun.
Yeah.
You didn't get water and power. That's
I don't know that we have an immediate fix, but Sheriff Carpenter's awesome to work with, and so is John. And let's
I have somewhere to go.
address it. Yeah, let's.
and thank you for coming
Yeah.
with your concerns, because
appreciate you.
that's how we get those taken care of, is for people to get active and not just complain, but come and get the help.
Like I said, I'm going to go and find a place to start, because this is
That's a great place.
And
Right.
they can help you right now. After you visit with Sheriff Carpenter or whatever, you can wander down there and they'll be able to help you.
Get
It's
me
just
started.
kind of right below us.
Sweet. All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
guys.
you for your time.
you.
Thank you for your comment. Seeing no other public comments, let's move on to number 5. This is a ratification of a local consent permit approval for Red Acre Farms Farm to Fork event, September 4th, 2021 at 2322 West, 4575 North at Red Acre Farm. I can talk to this really quickly. Anytime that an event plans to serve alcohol, in this case, in conjunction with a local winery, they're going to serve wine at the event. The Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control requires a permit issued by the county. Because of some timing issues with the last meeting, especially with specifically because of the 24th of July holiday, they were not able to get this on the agenda for the last county commission. We have reviewed it and signed that permit, knowing that we could get it on the agenda this go around. So this is a ratification. This is an event that's taken place for several years. We're all very familiar with it and the things that go along with it. And it's really a great event for our community. Brings a lot of people in to kind of get a look at small farms. So it's really a good event.
It's a great event.
So
From an administrative perspective, the form has already been submitted, and I was unable to get a copy for the packet, but read.
I would only say that this would be a great opportunity from a zoning enforcement issue to remind them that they are still without a permit for their business there. In terms of they need an administrative land use permit, she knows that. She keeps saying that they're going to come and get that, and this would
No,
be a
they've
good
been working on
item
it.
to
Yeah.
remind them that this would.
This
be
has
part
been an
of it.
impasse that predates my time in office.
Well, it's, but sometimes these are ways that we get those things done.
Right.
So,
Thank
we
you.
would typically do this for anyone. I'm not picking on her.
Right.
We would just want to make sure that they're in compliance with their other requirements before we give new permits.
But it's an ongoing.
I'm aware of the situation.
No, not this. But I'm saying the situation with Red Acre Farm is an ongoing impasse that we have yet to resolve.
Get an ordinance amendment to accommodate that, but now it needs to come in and get in compliance.
All right.
I'll move to ratify the local consent permit approval for Red Acre Farms Farm to Fork event, September 4th, 2021, 2322 West, 4375 North.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 6, Resolution 2021-5, a resolution to authorize the filing of a cross appeal to the 2021 Utah Iron Centrally Assessed Property Tax Appeal to the Utah State Tax Commission. Dan Jessen, our Iron County Auditor.
So while Dan's coming up, this is one that happens many times. Dan will explain the whys and the wherefores. We contract with Tom Peters, and we were able to update the list of companies who had appealed, and Dan will explain the rest.
I think you're doing a good job. Just finish it off.
All right. Well, so companies who are centrally assessed, those are properties that are not assessed by our local assessor, but they're assessed at the state level. That includes railroads and trains and certain mining operations, and a list of things that don't fall under the local assessor's purview are what's called centrally assessed. And many of those cross county lines, like railroads and airlines. And so
communications.
And so they appeal their valuation as a centrally assessed property. What that does is it puts the counties in a situation to have to defend those, and we often band together, which is what we're doing in this case with Mr. Peters, and we require a resolution to identify which companies' appeals we will band together with and fight the appeal of those valuations.
And can I say, and I'm gonna keep all the details to a minimum, because these are things that we spend a lot of time and money litigating. But I think it's fair to sum up that the centrally assessed process in Utah is, I don't know if I want to say broken, but it is.
I do.
It's extremely poor.
Oh, I do.
Well, so for example, I pulled the text for this resolution from the 2019 resolution, and all I had to do was change 3 names. It's the same companies over and over and over again.
I mean, I just got one this morning, and it was from, and I guess I will go into a little bit of detail. No, I won't, because I won't give you the exact numbers. But when you have a company who's worth multi-millions of dollars, and they come in and they say, no, we're only worth 40% of what we are on paper. And keep in mind, the state assesses them, yet the county has to, and we don't have the manpower, the know-how. We're not experts in telecommunications and power lines and railroads and all this stuff, yet we have to spend county dollars to fight. And the bigger the company, the bigger the teeth, and they'll go and get a federal judge to override the state tax commission. And at the end result, because of the way the tax process works with tax rates and so forth, if they, it's cheaper for them to go hire an army of lawyers and to sue and to appeal and appeal and appeal and appeal till it gets past the state Supreme Court. And if they can get billions or hundreds of millions of dollars of value taken off, then their tax goes way down, and the difference is paid for by Iron County taxpayers as far as the local assessment. So it is kind of the case of the more wealthy you are, that you play by a different set of rules. So, and our role is we're the little guy, and we have to jump on officially to all of these cross appeals so that we actually can be in the room while the discussion happens. We do hire Tom Peters, who represents us very well. He's not cheap. Tom Peters does a great job, but he has the expertise that we need. So specifically, we do have one that is completely contained in Iron County. Doesn't matter because of its mining. It is, and that's Utah Iron that we specifically is what generated this. Tom Peters says you need a resolution so that I can counter appeal that, and it's self-reported. So they self-reported, kind of work with the state, and now they're appealing that value. We've been ongoing with Black Iron since 2014, and that's not yet resolved. So this is actually the 2021. They have filed an appeal, and so this will give us the ability and make sure that our attorney knows that we are fully committed to counter appeal. I don't know if that's the right word. Cross appeal. And be a part of that. But Utah Iron is what it's now called, and that's 100% us. There's no other counties that are involved in that, and so we have to make sure we stay on top of that, and we authorize our attorney to do that. And be thankful, Sam, that this doesn't all fall on you, because are you an expert in centrally assessed cross appeals? But right, it's this thing that is a burden that we all share as a county, and anyways, that's the point of this resolution.
How could that be resolved, Dan? Could that be resolved with the state? Could they pass? I mean, could we get the legislature to get involved with
In my simple mind, I think that this is something that should be handled on a state basis, where they could hire, they could have experts, and they do, but guess what? They make a fraction of what they can make in the private sector. And so the turnover at the state tax commission in centrally assessed is just as bad as any of these stories you're hearing. It's almost worse, because if you're any good, you're going to get hired away. This is regulatory anything in the U.S. right now, whether it's regulating Wall Street, anything. Anybody who's any good gets hired by the private sector to lobby and so forth like that. So
from our perspective, it's really frustrating, because we run a fairly tight ship as far as valuation, appealing those values, and these are us having to defend values that we didn't come up with.
So not only is there a burden shifted to the local taxpayers every time there's a successful appeal, but there is a monetary burden. We spend a lot of money that is just general fund money to pay lawyers to show up to these hearings. So it is what it is. I don't know of any solution unless the legislature wants to completely have the state take it over. In the meantime, there are rules that, I mean, they're parcels in Iron County, and we're the county, and we assess those parcels. So even though it's centrally assessed, at the end of the day, it's a county levy being levied on those parcels, and so we have to be involved. And so I don't know of any great thing other than to just keep up the fight. But and it's, you know, the right of those companies and the owners of those companies, if they feel they're being unfairly taxed, to appeal those values. So, you know, that's a right as well that we need to make sure is important. But when it gets to be a game and it's business, and they know they'd rather pay lawyers X amount of dollars so that they can save X amount of tax dollars, it doesn't matter. It's they're gonna do that all they can. So did I sum it up, Nicole? Nicole gets in the middle of a lot of these, and
I'll echo what you said, Dan. It's very unfortunate these very wealthy companies shift their burden to these fixed income people in our county. It's ridiculous.
So then it's behind too. We're way behind. 2014, so everybody has to pay that until they finally pay somewhere down the road.
For years, aren't we?
For years, yeah.
Affects the collection rate, which is part of the calculus to come up with our tax rates. So, you know, sometimes you want to cheer for the company that's sticking it to the government. The problem is
these little counties that are
rate floats, and the burden just shifts to the small guy. That's the problem. And this isn't about the county getting it. It's about trying to keep the process fair and trying to protect our small taxpayers. And so anyways, it is what it is. But this resolution gives us the ability to cross appeal and authorize Tom Peters to get in and do that work. And I'm hoping that we can come to some resolution with the one local taxpayer on this list. We've been working at it since 2014. Anyways, there's more details I can give you off the record on that. You know, who knows if we can get that move forward. But anyways.
Thank you. Call for a motion. Yep.
Move for approval of resolution 2021-5, a resolution to authorize the filing of a cross appeal to the 2021 Utah Iron centrally assessed property tax appeal to the Utah State Tax Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make sure I'm signing the right one. Okay. Get ahead.
-5.
This was the one you did earlier. I just forgot to. I feel like maybe apropos, I guess.
Excellent. All right. Number 7. I'll turn the time over to Danny Stewart. Discussion of recommendation from Iron County Economic Development Advisory Board for your Utah Rural County Grant application.
Morning, Commissioners. It's nice to see you. This is something that started last year. It was the very first year, this Rural County Grant Program that was put forth by the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity now. And the appointed Economic Development Advisory Committee has recommended the following items for your approval as we submit an application for this year's round of this Rural County Grant Program. So I'll go through these with you. If you have any questions at all, please let me know, and I'll explain these more in depth. The first item, this is a software analytics program that's useful to myself, the Office of Economic Development, and also to our tourism folks. We are partnering for the match on this grant and requesting from the state $21,000. Between that and the match of $14,000, a total of $35,000 will be for this 1-year subscription to this Buxton Analytics software that will be beneficial for local retail businesses, for recruiting of local retail, and then also for tracking data for our tourism office, in addition to the Visa View that they already use. So that's the first one. Just so you're aware, each of these does require a match. As a third-class county, we have a larger population, so we have to come up with a 40% match on these, and I'm showing this on the data that you have. Hopefully you received the single sheet that was included in the packet. The second one, this is for the Innovation Center, which is being put together at Southwest Technical College in conjunction with Southern Utah University's School of Business, the Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Business Center of Utah, and those other entities that are located in that building. They lease space from the Tech College. Tech College is improving that space for a business innovation center where all of those entities can work together to provide trainings and different opportunities, workspace, a maker space, and different things. And the portion of the grant that we're asking for will help cover operating costs of that center. So that's number 2. The match will come from Southwest Technical College with what they've done to that building so far and with expenses that they have to hire a person to oversee that center. Next, we're asking for a grant to help the Small Business Development Center with an EDA grant called the Build to Scale Venture Challenge. This goes hand in hand with that Innovation Center. This is a program to help business startups through the EDA with the Small Business Development Center. And they're providing the match on that grant. And then finally,
who is providing the grant? For the match?
Small Business Development Center, Southern Utah University are providing the match on that, as well as, well, it's mainly Southern Utah University's College of Business that's providing the match to go with ours.
And who was providing the match for the, let's see, for the Buxton products? That was...
That's my Office of Economic Development as well as Maria Twitchell. Okay. So we're providing $8,500 and change, and Maria's providing the remainder of that.
What about the Innovation Center? Who's providing that match?
Southwest Tech is providing that match in the improvements that they're making to that building, as well as salary for the person to run that center. And then the final one is for Cedar City Historic Downtown Improvements. We're getting back to downtown programs. Cedar City, Parowan, Bryan Head, countywide. This is kind of the first step into this. The city of Cedar City had already invested into downtown improvements for this year, so their match is actually more than what's required, but the remaining $79,000 is what we're requesting. That would create the total grant ask of $200,000, which is the cap amount of what we can request each year. So this comes from approval from the advisory board that's appointed to counsel me in economic development, and this is what they've approved and asked me to get your approval on.
So the 79,000 number was what Cedar has already spent?
Cedar's already spent 104. So it's actually more than that 40% requirement, but that's what we have spent in this calendar year that can be used as a match for that.
So what was the 79,000 number? I'm sorry, I didn't.
79,000 is our request for the Ural County grant. So it doesn't match
total of 200.
Total of 200 is all of these 4 items.
Oh, okay.
So
I was trying to shoehorn that into the downtown thing. Okay.
Yeah, the 79 for downtown, the 50 for the Small Business Development Center program, 30 for the Innovation Center, and 21 for the Buxton.
For a
software.
total of 200.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's what we have right now. We're able to submit this application as soon as we have your approval. This is Part A of this grant. There's also a Part B of this grant, which has been up in the air whether that would be made available, but it will be made available after November of this year. That is a competitive grant up to $600,000, and we're looking at some potential projects for that, especially looking into some infrastructure and water and different things that might benefit the entire county. So we'll, if we can find the right project, we'll come back in November for that Part B. But this $200,000 is guaranteed, and the $600,000 is a competitive grant among rural counties. There's only a handful of those that are granted each year. So,
Great.
Okay, ready for a motion?
Yes.
I'll move to issue a positive recommendation for the Iron County Economic Development Advisory Board for the Utah Rural County Grant application.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Grant application away.
Thanks.
Thanks, Danny.
All right. Welcome Jen to the stand for personnel.
Thank you and good morning. Would you like the paper copies of what I sent you in the packet just to have as reference?
I'm good. I've got it here.
You have it already?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought I would cover line item 2 before 1 on the attorney's side for personnel first, because they kind of affect each other. As Chad Dotson stated earlier this morning, with the departure of Mike Edwards, we've been facing a dilemma in the hiring of our vacant attorney slot. Chad and I have gathered numbers together so we can kind of see where we fall within comparison with other counties in Utah as well, to kind of see what our pay scale looks like. So that proposal that I sent for your consideration is to increase the pay scale as well as adjust our current attorney's pay for retention and recruitment. I'm happy to answer any questions, and then Chad is also here to answer, and he may have some things to cover as well if you do.
Yeah, no, if we can tag team here. This is the current schedule, or this is the proposal that you have, but this is not new. This has been in place, I think, since 2009. And salaries are roughly the same as they currently said. There was a modest adjustment in 2017 to Deputy 1. But other than that, what is the current salary has been in place since about 2009, minus a small adjustment in 2017. And so, just to give so just to give a comparison with our Deputy 5, well, the current
Jennifer, can I have that?
current Deputy 4 and Deputy 5. So Deputy 4
Mine's
requires you to have stayed in the office for over 4 years, and that you would make
good.
currently $71,700. Deputy 5, $79. Just to give you a comparison, Washington County starts a brand new attorney right out of law school at 65, Salt Lake 75. So we're not going to compete with those big counties, but we need to be able to compete at least with the Schedule or the Class 3, 4, and 5 counties. And so I think the proposal is reasonable given what we're seeing in other local jurisdictions. Washington County, of course, is a bigger county, but they're starting their attorneys off what it would take a prosecutor or a civil attorney to earn after over 4 years or 5 years in the office. So I think this would help recruitment. It helps with retaining good attorneys. When we talk about specializing in certain areas, we could certainly see attorneys stay longer and specialize if they see a future, right? If they see that if I stay this long, I can make this and stay with the county, serve the county for a long time. And that's like I said, my goal. Electeds come and go, but the county is best served if they have a core group of people who are going to have knowledge and specialty, and they can serve the county for a long time and make a career. Career prosecutors and public servants are not unusual. Unfortunately, in Iron County, unless you were made chief deputy, you're probably gone, and that's been the history for a long time with the county attorney's office. But if there's any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. But again, we realize as government attorneys, we're not going to be rich. I don't think that that's what we're after. But I think that the proposal is reasonable. Our budget could absorb the increase if it was made today. Given that we're down an attorney, that helps. I think that the offsets that we have in our savings in the budget, so it wouldn't affect. I don't think we even need a budget adjustment for this year, which is good. And then of course any proposal for next year would be what's listed there on the current attorney pay structure that's in your packet. But thoughts or questions?
We understand the climate.
Yeah.
We're business owners too, and it's hard.
It is.
I mean, it's a climate right now, and it'll change. We've seen the ups and downs over the years, but for right now, we've got to do something. We understand that.
Yeah, and I think just it's out of our hands, but the current housing, the
climate,
the cost for a house, you get attorneys making, they can't afford a place to live, and that's, and I know that's not unique to my office.
And rental also.
Yeah. So I think it's in the best interest of the county. I really do, to have an attorney's office that's staffed that's going to be here for the long haul. That's going to develop an expertise in a wide variety of areas: civil and local government, traffic safety and DUI, homicide and sexual assault prosecutions. I mean, these aren't things that you can just jump in and do. They take training, they take experience. So I would ask that you approve this request.
On that item.
Okay.
So
on item number 2 on the attorney, call
for a
motion. Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve of the attorney pay scale adjustment for, I guess, the overall.
I think that's all we need.
Overall, yeah.
For a second.
Second.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll go back to number 1 of the attorney side. With your consideration, Trajan Evans has completed all training and qualifications to be promoted from a Deputy 2 to a Deputy 3 attorney with corresponding pay, effective date 8/8 of 2021.
Move to approve as described.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Seconded.
Second.
And
Second,
aye.
Sorry.
We're in a hurry.
Fine. Landfill.
All right, so I sent you the job description in the packet as well, and I've got a copy if you need it. Bruce and I kind of have gone over this job description in fine detail. The master mechanic that we have had for ever and ever retired on Friday, and with that departure, We thought it was necessary to kind of evaluate the position with the experience and qualifications that are needed for machinery and hazardous materials, waste components within the landfill. So with this position, it was important to kind of get that job description and pay more detailed and correct for going forward in the future. And if you have questions, and again, if you need the paper copy, I can give that to you too.
Yeah. Do we need a motion on that then?
Yeah, let's take care of that one.
I'll approve, do the approval of a new created job position and pay scale at the landfill, master mechanic hazardous waste specialist.
Marilyn, could you use the word motion or move?
Oh, and I will move to do that as I described.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Number 2.
All right, with your consideration, Scott Carter was selected from an internal position posting to be promoted with corresponding pay from the landfill technician to a heavy equipment master mechanic, backfill from the retirement position I spoke about, with corresponding pay effective date 8/8 of 2021.
So moved, as described.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Curtis Cox on the agenda was inadvertently left out or hired at a lower rate and pay than his qualifications and job duties for the 2021 calendar year. Again, it was just an error on my part. So with your approval, I'm seeking a pay rate adjustment with the effective date of 8/8/21 to bring him up to where he needs to be.
I'll move to, as described, and bring him up to what he needs to be.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I do have one quick comment about that.
Yes.
Curtis works for Mountain Dew.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm just saying.
Interesting.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Perk there.
Curtis is really, if you take Curtis a 12 or a Mountain Dew, it goes a long
Oh, you're
way.
right.
Wow,
You're right. I
good
think I
job.
did hear that once.
Curtis, very quickly, flood, dump stayed open late. Curtis manned the landfill until 1 o'clock in the morning, had to be back to work at 7. Again, the next night we stayed open a few hours late, not quite that late. I took Curtis a 12 or a Mountain Dew that next morning, and he was extremely appreciative and said that he'll work for Mountain Dew anytime.
Love it. I thought you meant he actually worked for the company as
That's
well,
what I
and I'm
thought.
like, oh, that's
No. He just.
But now that you say
if
that,
you run to Lynn's and get a dozen donuts and a 12 or a Mountain Dew, it goes a
Mountain
really
Dew
long way at the
keeps
landfill.
him going.
there you go. All right, so last
There were
one-
some heroic efforts at the landfill,
Absolutely.
amongst others.
Absolutely, and hopefully we'll include all that in our after-action report and recognize those guys.
Absolutely, they were great. All right, in the Sheriff's Office patrol side, Brandon Kennedy and Aaron Powell have completed all requirements and training to be promoted from Deputy 1s to Deputy 2s with corresponding pay effective date 8/8 of 2021.
So moved, as described.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And that's all I have. Thank you.
Prairie dogs and boards.
Wait a minute. Did we do both of those on Sheriff?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both being promoted the exact
Okay,
same.
I'm
Same
so-
promotion, both names?
Can I
Yeah.
bring something up?
Yes.
I've been thinking about. So I retired many years ago, and this will be my third time. After I get done with the commission, this will be my third time retiring. I wondered if there was a program that we could bring. We have all of these great people moving into our community. Could we do a part-time thing for like the CJC for, people that are already trained? Could we do some type of a advertisement for a part-time different positions in the county?
Sure.
Of retirees? We just at our business just he came in to have some work done at our shop, and Jesse said, "How about you go to work for me?" And he's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, can you work a couple of days a week?" Yeah. And he said, "Yeah." And he's been coming, and he's they're already trained. They're,
Sure.
part-time, retirement gets really boring. People don't understand that unless you have retired. And it's great to do something else. And you could really contribute to the county.
Sure. I
we
will
would
definitely
love
look
to
into
have
that.
some of those type of people.
That's a great
It's a
suggestion.
great idea.
So think about that,
Oh.
and let's see if we can't come up with some type of a program to bring some of those type of people in that already have their benefits, already have their retirement, but that would love to come in and help our county, be do interviews, whatever.
We
Because
have
I'm sure
models
there's
for that with some of the senior companions, some of the things that Curtis does.
Yeah, CJ.
I wonder, because we have folks like that help with elections.
Yes,
but maybe we could
yes.
have a little bit more of less of a seasonal thing, like you say. I think it's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will definitely.
would help with our, we're having trouble with keeping and retaining, and like she said, $80 an hour or whatever it is. For a retired person, that'd be fabulous. That'd be a good gig.
Pretty gig for somebody that's retired.
Right.
So,
No, I will definitely.
Let's
look
come
into
up
that.
with something
yeah,
like that.
for sure.
I appreciate
We'll
it.
get together.
All right.
Hey.
Well, with that being said, I'll declare commission meeting closed. Did you have?
I actually didn't jump up fast enough, but I do need to.
Come up.
Mike, are you here to talk about flooding?
Yeah.
We've
we
got a
probably
commitment in Enoch in 20 minutes.
Forgot to call you.
If we can.
You guys could ride over together. I'd come pick you up in a minute.
Let's go back.
What do you want to do?
Let's go back.
Meet sometime else. I don't have to meet right now.
Could we meet? Maybe?
Let's go back. Well, let's just go back on the record for a second.
Yeah.
And so obviously you were here and
Whole time.
The whole time, and
you was shy.
and what you we
I'm kind of scared. I've never done this before.
Okay.
no we'd let we're totally
And
willing
I don't
to
even know if
accommodate.
I'm
So
even
tell us
talking
your-
to the
tell us
right
your
group
name.
of people or anything. My
Let's-
name's Ruth Ellen Barlow,
Okay.
Okay.
and I'm taking a government class, and I'm supposed to do this 3-minute speech.
Oh.
So, if it's not 3 minutes, then I hope they still think I did a good job.
We're not going to tell.
We're not going to judge nor tell.
Yep. If we have to sign
Okay.
something, we will.
The topic I want to talk today is reflective markers on the roads, because we have so much snowy weather, so much rain, and so many young drivers on the road that when it rains and storms, then you can't really see the lines on the road. And we can't have triangles like Washington County, because we have too many snowplows. And we want to keep our roads safe for, all this younger generation that thinks that they can just hot rod around, because it's kind of scary. So I was wondering about putting reflective beads in the paint, making the paint reflective instead of using triangles. And so the reflective is still there, but the snow plows won't knock it off the road. And we have just lately, over the last 6 months, the traffic that comes through Cedar City and the freeway has been so heavy. I travel back and forth a lot between here and St. George and other county roads that it's just really hard to want to send your young teenager that only has their driver's license for a year or less out after dark, because you can't even see the lines very good, and especially if they have glasses or contacts, then it's harder for them as well. So I was just thinking that we should think about putting reflective in the paint.
It's a great idea.
I love it when people come in and have a solution.
Well, I don't know how much that reflective stuff costs, but it would sure fix a lot of problems here in Cedar City.
I get it. Yeah, I mean, because I like when people come in and address a problem that we don't know about, because that gets it on our radar. But I love when people come in with a problem and a solution that we can maybe look at.
it's kind of close to me at home because my teenagers and 20-year-olds that do have driver's license, their vision is really bad. And they have glasses and stuff, but they don't like to drive in a storm. They don't like to drive at night because they can't see the road good enough.
All right. Well, thank you.
So, thanks for your time.
I think you get more. You get an A.
Yeah.
Tell your teacher, tell the
Me
professor
too.
you get an A.
Thank you
Okay,
for
I will.
coming. We love for the community to come and tell us things, and like Mike said,
And off the
a
record,
solution's great.
my sister says to tell you to send the officers around to where they patrol and stop at the stop sign and make sure that where you're supposed to stop behind the stop sign and make sure you can actually see the road what you're trying to turn onto, because she says there's a lot of blind spots.
Again, thank you.
Okay,
And
very
we've
good.
had that come up in the past where we've had overgrown weeds and stuff, and we try to address it.
Anyway,
Thank you.
I just thought that. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Have a good day. Thanks. Now we'll be adjourned.